Hello, we join you today from Interstate 75 just north of Tampa, St. Pete, on our way from Sanibel Island, Florida to Cleveland, Ohio. On our way, we're going to make some important stops, some fun stops. First of all, we'll be camping tonight at Reed Bingham State Park in Georgia. It is just, maybe 50-70 miles north of the Florida-Georgia line. We're staying just one night there tonight. And then tomorrow we are headed to Great Smoky Mountain National Park. We'll be spending 2 nights there, and we'll be going to Ashville, North Carolina, which is very nearby, to see the Biltmore Estate. We've never been there before. We're looking forward to that. So come along with us on this adventure and let's see how things turn out. Welcome back to E-Hermes, your electric adventure travel channel. Please remember to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit that bell button to be notified of our upcoming content. This Gainesville station is always very busy. Every time I've come here, it's either been almost full or full. We got the last spot today. Unfortunately, we had to take the original cabinet, the one with the Chatamo cord on it as well. I try to avoid that one in case the car comes with the Chatamo, but it was the only one available, so we took it. Our speeds are not horrible, 130, that's pretty good. So in less than 43 minutes, we went from 9 to 79%. In 43 minutes, we went to, well, 44 minutes up to all the way up to 80%. But look at that drop. See, at 80%, it drops like a rock, and it'll stay here to 90%, and then at 90%, it drops to like 15 kilowatts. So we're gonna go ahead and unplug and take off and get to the next station or the campground, depending on the weather. Mrs. E-Hermes and I both agreed that the 350 miles from Sanibel to the Florida-Georgia line went much better today than normal. It was much less painful, even though we've been at it for about 7 hours. You know what we always say here at E-Hermes, if you arrive with more than 5%, you just aren't trying. Well, we got here right at 5%. So we got started. We are at station number 4. It says 150 kW. We'll see what we get here. At this low battery pack, we should get real close to that. Looks like we're gonna get about 140, which we had 133 at the other one, and that worked out just fine for us. So we're gonna charge here at least to 80%. We'll see how fast it drops off from there. And then we are headed to one more charger before we get to the hotel. So this is why we elected to forego the campground tonight, stay in the hotel instead. It's not so much the rain, I don't mind getting wet, but it's a little hard to see because it's nominally still daytime, but it's the lightning and that'll get you, and maybe some high winds later too. So we're gonna go ahead and stay in the hotel tonight and camp the next 2 nights instead. We spent last night at the Home 2 Inn & Suites where it rained, as you know, which is why we didn't camp. They did have a Clipper Creek charger, but we were here about 10 hours after dinner and only got about 40%. We're up to 59%. So it's getting 4 or 5 kilowatt hours, so not exactly great, but much better than a sharp stick in the eye. Georgia treated us just fine, but now we are on to North Carolina, where we'll be spending the next 2 nights and going to see the Biltmore Estate in Asheville tomorrow. We arrived in Franklin, North Carolina, in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains with 19%. We're going to do a very deep charge here because we're going up to our campsite, which does not have power, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. None of the national park campgrounds in Smoky Mountains have electric hookups, and we want to go to Asheville tomorrow. There's certainly chargers there, but we're probably going to charge to at least 80 and maybe 90% here. It is a Duke Energy Shell Recharge, and it's 150 kW, and it's doing pretty good. So we're just gonna sit here, probably walk into town, maybe look for something to eat or drink, and then we'll head off to our campsite. There is one more charger, allegedly. Actually, there's 2. One of them no one's ever been to, so I'm kind of doubting that it really exists. And the other one has really bad reviews on PlugShare, so I'm not sure it's gonna work. So that's why this one's so critical. But this one had good reviews, and it is working just fine, so that seemed to be correct. There's an old saying that says, when life gives you lemon, make lemonades. If there's an inconvenience, to make the best of it. We prefer, if you want to think of long charging times as life giving you an inconvenience, we'd prefer to say life gives you grapes, we make wine. So we're going to the Slanted Window Winery while we charge. Here we are at Slanted Windows Tasting Room. Tasting station, like gas station, got it. We decided to go to the new station that no one has been to yet, and now I can see why, because it doesn't really exist yet. It's here and ready to go, it just hasn't been turned on yet. This is at the Hendricks Community College West Waynesville Annex, and looks like it'll be real nice when it opens. In Waynesville, there are 3 DC fast chargers that I can find, only 2 of which show up on PlugShare. The one that doesn't work at the municipal parking garage, the one that's not quite in service yet at the Haywood Community College West Annex, but this one at the local market at the BP. And look at this, they've got a nice canopy for us. They've got chairs for you to sit in while you're waiting. This thing's beautiful. Now it's a 62.5 kW, which is often what you find out here in the more rural areas. It's not blazing fast, but when you need power, it's plenty fast enough. So we're gonna charge here to 90%. We're only about 30 miles from the campsite, and then we'll be able to power the campsite the whole time we're there. The one furthest from the road would only go about 29 kW. Now I do have 73% capacity, so I thought it was that. But I moved over to the one closer to the road here, which is the local market branded one, and it's giving me 59 kW. So that's pretty good for a 62.5 kW charger when I'm this full. So this won't take us long. How rude. This won't take us long to get to 90%. We have made it to Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Cosby Campground. Mrs. E-Hermes is cooking our dinner on our 2 induction hot plates plugged into the rear frunk. Here's our tent down over the hill. We use that extension cord you see coming from the frunk to blow up the air mattress. We're charging a rechargeable battery, and the cooler is in the frunk, electric cooler. And we leave this plugged in all the time, even while we're driving. It doesn't draw much, doesn't generate much heat. So that's our electric cooler. We have some milk and some water and some yogurt. Not a lot on this trip. And that's our campsite. Looks like we have a guest for dinner, or the guest could be dinner. No, it's National Park, can't do that. But there's a nice wild turkey walking through our campsite. Not only do we have turkeys in Cosby Campground in Great Smoky Mountain National Park, but we have bears as well. Hello, we come to you today from the Biltmore Estate in Ashville, North Carolina, the largest private residence in the country, home to the Vanderbilt family, and we're going to go take a tour inside, go to their winery, and have lunch and a glass of wine. But let's see the tour inside the house first. Before we go inside, let's take a look at some of the ornamental artwork on the exterior of the building. Please note that we're going to give you a brief overview of the inside of the tour, but if you look at the link above and in the description below, we will have the entire video of everything we saw in Biltmore Estate in a separate video. I didn't want to include that in this one because it would make it just way too long. So as amazing as the house is, the gardens are equally, if not more amazing, but it is hard to get the scale of them on any photo or video. This is what they call the spring garden. It's one corner of the overall garden area. The garden is many acres. This is one other small part of the gardens overall. This is called the azalea garden. Imagine a guest coming down to the boathouse to do some rowing out on the pond. Here's another view from the boathouse from the opposite shore. Who's ever in charge of growing all this stuff is really good at what they do. It's quite impressive. So among their current endeavors, this is the Biltmore Estate winery, and it is the most popular winery in the whole country, which is a little bit surprising, but I'll take their word for it. We went here, we tried our samples, and we're gonna have a glass before we leave. I really like the steel trusses in the roof support. After our day touring the Biltmore, we spent the following day in Great Smoky Mountain National Park, then headed home back to Cleveland. I love all the stone arch bridges that probably the CCA built in Smoky Mountain National Park. These are just some of the views in Great Smoky Mountain National Park. A lot of the pine trees have died off, and now smaller, younger, deciduous trees seem to be taking over. The views never get old. You have to admit that is pretty impressive. 20.7 miles per kilowatt hour. That would equate to nearly 2,700 miles of range on a full charge. Of course, that only works if you're going down a steep mountain road. Without going into detail in every charging station, there are relatively fast chargers, at least 62.5 kW, all around Great Smoky Mountain National Park. They are in Cherokee, North Carolina, Franklin, North Carolina, Sevierville, Tennessee, and the one we use the most in Waynesville, North Carolina. This one in Cherokee is the fastest, and it's, I believe, 150. We have a very nice bike carrier at home for our e-bikes, but we had our recumbent bikes in Florida, and we had to get them back to Ohio. So I got this bike rack on Amazon for under $50. The clamp that tightens it down so it doesn't wobble was an addition to it. I think it was 10 bucks. And this has worked really well. We've gone over 1,000 miles with it and has had no noticeable effect on the range. As you can see, our total trip was 1,735 miles. And in that 1,735 miles, we averaged 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. That's pretty good. A lot of highway driving in there at high speeds. With the bike rack on the back, I don't know that it had much, if any, effect on range. We had all of us, the two of us, and all of our camping gear in the truck, so there was a little extra weight. So that wraps it up. 1,735 miles. We hope you enjoyed this video of the trip from Sanibel to Cleveland with a stop at the Great Smoky Mountain National Park and Biltmore Estate. If you did, hit that like button. Please subscribe, and remember, hit that bell button to be notified of our upcoming content. Thank you!